Hi everyone, this is Mrs. G.A. and today we're going to be solving word problems by using proportional relationships. So for these, the key is going to be to be able to sketch out a picture. So we do need to kind of interpret what's going on and make sure we can draw an accurate figure for what's happening. So for number one, Jim is 5 feet 8 inches tall. He casts a shadow that is 6 feet 4 inches long. A tree casts a shadow that is 19 feet long. How tall is the tree? So here we're going to assume that a person and a tree are both standing outside at the same time. So there should be some type of proportional relationship between the height of a person or a figure or a tree or anything and how long the shadow is. So if what we can do is we can say height of the figure over the length of the shadow, this can be the proportion that we set up, and that will help us to figure out how tall the tree is. So one thing that we can do to make our lives a little bit easier is kind of convert this to a better unit. So instead of saying 5 feet 8 inches, we can just convert this straight to inches. So we know that a foot is 12 inches, so this would actually be 68 inches total. And then for 6'4", again, this is a different way of writing feet, and this is a different way of writing inches. So if we convert this into inches, we have 72 inches plus 4 is 76 inches. The last thing we're going to want to convert would be the length of the tree shadow, which is currently in feet. So 19 feet, if you multiply that by 12, it gives us 228 inches. So now everything will have the same units. So let's start by setting up the proportion for Jim. So we're going to do Jim's height on top, so 68, and the length of his shadow on the bottom, so 76. And then that's going to equal the tree's height, which is what we're trying to find, so x, over the tree shadow, which is 228 inches. So here we can cross multiply. So 228 times 68 is 15,504 equals 76x. And then x will equal 204 inches. So that's how tall the tree is. Now if you would like to convert this back to feet, we would just divide by 12, and that's also equal to 17 feet. Either way is fine. Okay, let's look at this next example together. So here we have a river, and then we have some different lines and angles drawn across. So this says if IV is 36 meters and VE is 20, EB is 15, what is the length or the width of the river? So you can see what we're trying to find right here is x. So before we are able to set up any type of proportion, we do need to make sure that these two triangles are similar. So you'll notice here that angle I is congruent to angle E. It's given. And we can also state that angle RVI is congruent to angle EVB because they are vertical angles. And so since we know that two of the angles are congruent, we can use angle-angle similarity. So for this, it may help for us to actually make a similarity statement. So we could say triangle VIR is similar to triangle VEB. And this will help us determine which sides should be proportional. So again, we are trying to solve for x, so let's set up let's start with a proportion of two sides we know. So if we do EV, EV is the second to the first, so that should be proportional with IR, or IV. And then we can say equals EB, which should be proportional with IR. So EV is 20, IV is 36, EB is 15, and IR is X, what we are trying to solve for. So one option when you have a proportion and you're solving for X here, we can go straight to cross multiplying, but if you notice that one of your ratios can be simplified, you can actually do that first, and it might make your job a little bit easier. So here you might notice that both of these numbers are divisible by 4. So if I divide 20 by 4, I get 5. If I divide 36 by 4, I get 9. So now when I go to cross multiply, my numbers are a little bit smaller. Again, it's not something that you have to do, but it might make your job easier. So if we cross multiply, we get 5x equals 135, which means x equals 27. So the width of the river is 27 meters. All right, we're going to try one last problem together. So here it says, to estimate the height of a pole, a basketball player who is exactly 2 meters tall stood so that the ends of his shadow and the shadow of the pole coincided. He found that his shadow measured 1.6 meters long, and the pole's shadow measured 4.4 meters long. How tall is the pole rounded to the nearest tenth? So we're going to start by trying to sketch a picture of what's going on. So here, let's say this is some pole, and there is a shadow happening from the sun, which we can draw over here. So we know kind of the sun would hit the pole like this, and then this would be the shadow. So this is the length of the shadow. And then it says that this basketball player stood so that his shadow and the shadow of the pole coincided. So imagine that the basketball player is right here, and then this is his shadow right here. So again, I'll do his shadow in blue, and then the pole's shadow is that total length in black. So you can see that he stood perfectly, so kind of the sun hit it and their shadows ended at the same point. So here we definitely have two triangles. We have our larger triangle and we have the smaller triangle. We know that these two triangles are similar because we have two 90-degree angles. We are assuming that the player is standing upright and the pole is upright. And this angle is shared by both, so of course it's congruent to itself. So again, we know that these two triangles are similar, which means that the lengths are proportional. So let's see what else we know from the prompt. We know that the basketball player is exactly 2 meters tall, so this height is 2. We know that the length of his shadow is 1.6, so this leg is 1.6 meters. We know that the pole's shadow is 4.4 meters, so that's from here to here. And we're trying to find how tall the pole is, which we'll call x. So we can see here that we can actually set up a proportion. We can say x over 2 equals 4.4 over 1.6. So here we can cross multiply. And if we divide both sides by 1.6, we get x equals 5.5. So that means the height of the pole is 5.5 meters. Okay, that is all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching.